Millionaire CEO, black and broke student, and the secret that changed everything. The city lights flickered like restless eyes, but none were as sharp as Celeste Jameson's. She sat behind the gleaming glass wall of her penthouse office, her dark skin glowing under the cold neon buzz. The headlines screamed her rise: black, brilliant, unstoppable. A CEO who shattered glass ceilings while the streets below cracked under decades of rage. Everyone watched her, but no one really saw the weight she carried. Across town, Laura Thompson tightened the laces of her worn-out boots, her fingers trembling just a little as she stared out at the cracked pavement outside the precinct. This was her first week as a cop. The badge felt heavy, not just because of metal, but because of everything she'd run from. The past clawed at her with whispers and shadows, ghosts no amount of uniform could hide. Her dark eyes flicked to the police station's grim facade, a fortress built on silence and secrets. So, sharp-tongued, with a grin that never reached his cold green eyes, he made it his mission to tear down Celeste piece by piece. Every sneer, every snide remark was like a knife twisting in the guts of the precinct's fragile balance. Laura felt it, like a warning buzz beneath her skin. Mark hated change, and Celeste was change. Then came the anonymous tip. The message hit the precinct like a thunderclap. Abuse, cover-ups, betrayal. A dark stain running deeper than anyone dared admit. Whispered murmurs burst through the halls. Is it true? Could this be happening here? Laura's chest tightened, a hard spike that left her breath shallow. The past surged back. Faces, screams, silence. The same silence that almost destroyed her. She stared at the cold screen in front of her, fingers frozen. The revelation wasn't just about the precinct. It was personal. Someone close to her, wrapped tight in the shadows of this scandal. The hit twisted her gut. Fear slammed into anger. What if she lost everything? What if facing the truth meant confronting the darkest corners of herself? Her heart pounded with a fierce urgency. Could she protect Celeste and the team she'd just begun to trust? Or would breaking the silence mean shattering everything? And if the cost was her own flesh and blood, tangled in the mess, could she still stand tall, torn between loyalty, love, and justice? Laura's world pitched violently between nightmare and hope. Outside, the city simmered. The buzz of distant sirens, footsteps, whispered threats tangled with the cold wind. Inside, Laura's hands found the edges of the desk, knuckles whitening. The hard choice loomed: stay silent and live with the weight, or risk it all and face what no one wanted to see. Her breath caught in her throat. The first move could destroy her or set her free. And then a low voice cut the tension, thick with venom. Mark Callahan was already watching. What would Laura choose when everything she believed in clashed with the ghosts she refused to forget? And the secret that could change everything burned dangerously close to home. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And while you're there, drop a powerful like. It really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The air crackled, the tension thick as molasses. Lara's pulse thrummed in her ears, drowning out Mark's low, taunting voice, layered with malice. In that moment, he became the embodiment of all her fears, an obstacle standing between her and the truth she dreaded to face. She hesitated, eyes locked on his, feeling the weight of countless decisions resting on that narrow precipice. Lara, Mark sneered, his gaze cold as steel. What are you going to do? Tattle on me? You know the game. A shadow flickered at the edge of perception, breaking her focus. For an instant, she thought she caught a glimpse of something darker behind Mark's bravado. A flicker of vulnerability, perhaps, but it vanished before she could pinpoint it, leaving only the icy mask of his demeanor. The precinct felt unbearably small as the walls closed in, the whispers of tangled lives sizzling around them. Then, everything shattered. A loud crash erupted from the back of the precinct, followed by urgent shouts from officers. It was a terrifying roar, more than just a commotion. It was chaos unleashed. Lara's heart dropped into her stomach as adrenaline propelled her towards the source. She barreled through the door, breathing in the storm of smoke as the scene unfolded before her. An officer lay sprawled on the ground, blood pooling around him, a shocking splash of crimson against the dull concrete. Lara's breath hitched, horror clawing at her throat. Her instincts kicked in. She rushed forward to assist, but it only took a moment before the unmistakable scent of gunpowder clung to the air, wrapping around her lungs like a vice. The thrumming chaos around her faded as a single thought fought for dominance. Was this real? And then, as if to rip away the thin veneer of stability, the chaos erupted again. A figure emerged from the chaos, a hooded silhouette that bolted past her, clutching something tightly. Lara's instincts screamed this was no random hit. Something big, something sinister was unraveling. "Stop! Police!" she shouted, lunging after the figure. Yet they weaved through the confusion like a shadow, leaving her grasping at nothing but air. As the figure vanished into the winding city streets, a guttural pain bloomed inside her. Something about that retreat felt alarmingly familiar. Hands gripped her shoulders, snapping her back to reality. It was Celeste, eyes wide, panic radiating off her like heat from a furnace. "Lara, what just happened?" And that's when it fell into place. The hooded figure, the anger boiling in their wake. A frayed edge of the past tugged insistently at her mind. No, it couldn't be. Breathless, she turned back, the pieces clicking together like locks in a safe. The realization slammed into her. The cloaked figure had slipped past her before she could register their profile, but not their mannerisms, nor the cadence of their movements. A twist of familiarity froze her to the core. The nightmares of her youth flooded back. Dark hallways, hurried whispers, desperate promises that turned into lies. The weight of their shared darkness came crashing down. "Celeste," she began, a tremor in her voice. "I think I know who that was." And then, like an uncoiling serpent, ready to strike, Mark's gaze hardened. The pieces of a devastating puzzle began to surface. Beneath the polished surface of the precinct lay fractured ties and buried secrets, revealing something monumental. Mark wasn't just a thorn in Celeste's side. He was an architect of this chaos. "Laura," he sneered, tilting his head with a predatory glint. "Let's just say, family ties run deeper than you think." Her world spun, the truth twisting like a dagger in her back. She wasn't just caught in a battle. She had stumbled in. The world around her dimmed, a heavy fog of uncertainty seeping into every corner of her mind. Celeste's panicked breathing raked against her ears, and for a heartbeat, she felt the ground beneath her tremble. Their shared history pulled tighter around them, the raw edges of a dark family secret looming just out of reach. "Family ties run deeper than you think," Mark taunted, his voice a razor against her skin. But before Laura could respond, chaos erupted anew. An officer staggered in from the side, blood-stained and wild-eyed, shouting, "Get the medic! We need backup now!" The tension snapped. Time stretched, a taut string ready to fray. Then, amid the turmoil, a flash of gold caught Laura's eye. A glint of something metallic slipping from Mark's pocket as he feigned nonchalance. A chill danced along her spine. She turned her gaze back to him, the night air heavy with foreboding. She took a step forward, pushing through the tide of panic. "What are you hiding, Mark?" His smirk faltered for just a fraction of a second, a crack in the facade that sent a jolt of energy through her being. "You want to dig deeper? Fine, but know this, the past has a way of coming back to bite." But then, something far murkier unfurled. Just as Laura prepared to confront him again, the distant screeches of police sirens merged with a sharp, urgent voice that sliced through the haze. "Get away from him!" It was Celeste, darting toward Mark, eyes blazing. "You don't know what you're getting into." The warning only deepened Laura's confusion. "What do you mean, Celeste?" And just like that, the world shifted. Mark's facade crumbled, revealing a quivering intensity beneath. "You think you're so noble?" he hissed, spitting the words out like venom. "You're about to learn the truth." At that moment, as if on cue, the room around them trembled. The lights flickered violently, and all went dark. Silence enveloped them, a heavy blanket where breaths were trapped. Laura's heart raced, her instincts screaming for caution. Then came the burst of light. A single beam illuminated the back of the room, and a figure emerged. But it wasn't an officer. It was a woman, features shrouded in shadow, but her posture unmistakably familiar. Lara's stomach dropped. Recognition surged through her veins. It was her mother. No, it couldn't be. Mom? Lara's voice cracked, disbelief scrambling her thoughts. The dark past that had haunted her childhood now stood before her, alive and tangible, stitching old wounds wide open. I had to protect you. I thought it was safer this way, her mother whispered, urgency threading through her tone. But behind those words loomed a lie, another layer of betrayal that wormed its way through the air thick with tension. Mark's sneer faded into something akin to panic. "You shouldn't have come here," he hissed, his composure fracturing. "They'll kill you if they find out." "You think it's too late?" Celeste stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper, yet filled with power. "They're already involved, all of them." Shock slammed into Lara like a battering ram, unraveling the strands of loyalty and duty as the truth unraveled. Her mother, a ghost of her past, wrapped up in the very scandal they were grappling with, entangled in a conspiracy deep enough to drown them all. "Tell me you're not part of this," Lara said, the weight of accusation hanging in the air, unsure who to trust. Terror laced through her words, a desperate plea barely hanging on the edge of hope. "I tried to shield you." Her mother's voice cracked as she stepped closer, sorrow etched in her every feature. "But it's all coming back. Everything we fought to escape. You need to choose, Lara. Choose who you want to save." The revelation hung like a loaded gun, each heartbeat drumming out a rhythm of chaos. Lara's breath caught, adrenaline surging as her mind raced to understand what she had just unearthed. It wasn't just a battle of good and evil anymore. It was personal, entangled in blood and choices. Her heart thrummed painfully in her chest. But as the shadows closed in, a new urgency rose, a deeper darkness lurking just beneath the surface. Who truly was the enemy? And now, in the face of so many tangled lies, could she still trust the woman who haunted her past, or the allies who were supposed to stand by her? The crack of authority outside beckoned, but the truth was urging her to stay. The question echoed deeper than ever. How far would she go to protect those she loved, even if it meant confronting the very essence of her blood? Desperate, Lara stepped forward, ready to confront the secrets that could bring them all to their knees. Lara's breath quickened as she stepped forward, uncertainty electrifying the air. The past loomed, bleeding into the present like ink on paper. The weight, her mother's voice echoed, a desperate plea swelling with urgency. The storm of chaos outside the precinct was nothing compared to the turmoil brewing within the shrouded relationships surrounding her. Panic surged through Lara. This wasn't just about family. This was about survival. She could feel the ground shifting beneath her, threatened by the quaking foundations of her past. "Who is really involved, Mom?" Lara demanded. "What are you hiding?" Before her mother could answer, the lights flickered violently again, plunging them into darkness. A cacophony of chaos reverberated in the shadows. The breath of foreboding swept through the room, wrapping around their hearts like a noose. It held them still, silencing the questions screaming in their minds. A faint gleam sliced through the gloom, a reflection of something metallic hitting the ground. The beam of light pulsed back to life, illuminating the floor where a blood-stained badge lay, vibrating in the aftermath of the chaos. Laura's heart dropped like a stone. Mark? The name slipped out as realization settled coldly in her chest. Mark stood frozen, his face twisting in horror as he stared at the badge. No, it can't be. His voice trembled, almost frantic, revealing the chink in his armor. Panic flashed across his features like a blade cutting through pretense. Then the disarray erupted violently. The door burst open, and a tall officer staggered in, battered and breathing heavily. His lips formed a hesitant flicker of recognition as he locked eyes with Mark. "We need to talk, Callahan, now." In that moment, everything shifted. The officer's expression morphed from confusion to fury. "You think you can run this show without consequences? You're playing a dangerous game." He stepped closer, every word dipped in menace. Moments stretched, thickening with tension, as the officer pulled back his shirt to reveal a gun holstered tightly at his side. "Your time's up, Mark. We know what you did." Before Lara could process the enormity of his words, Celeste leaped forward, a mixture of confusion and resolve crashing through her. "Wait, what does that mean?" "Enough of the secrets," the officer barked. "You think we don't know about the dirty operations? How deep you are in it? It's not just the precinct, it's the entire city." "Shut up!" Mark snapped, his earlier bravado evaporating as fear unleashed a desperation that crafted his next words. "You're finished if you even think about spilling anything. You don't know what would happen if you started." Suddenly, sirens wailed outside, a headphone jack plugging into the chaos, urgent and demanding. The reality of the precinct cracked wide open as the grip of deception tightened. Lara's world spun, every piece of the puzzle fracturing into shards that cut deeper than skin. And then, from behind the officer, emerged another, a woman masked in shadows, carrying a furious secret. "Tell them the truth, Mark," she shouted, pulling the hood from her face. Lara felt the blood drain from her face as recognition surged. Not just the woman. This was someone from the depths of her childhood. Maya? The truth slammed into her like a freight train. The woman she thought she had lost, wrapped up in a conspiracy that had left scars deeper than what she could remember. They were bound by a past so dark it threatened to smother all they had known. "Mark's not the only one who knows how to play," Maya hissed, her eyes to match steel lingering on Lara. "But the secret runs deeper than you think. Much deeper." Lara's heart raced. What was the nexus of betrayal tangled between them? How far did it go? As the sirens drew closer, and the fabric of their world began to unravel, one question hung suspended in the air. Would they survive the truth's unveiling? Not just the lies, but the bonds that had eternally tied them to the very enemy they were battling. Everything had changed in an instant, and the fight was only just beginning. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation, the air thick with unspoken truths and lingering shadows. Lara's heart raced against the backdrop of chaos, the sirens clawing dangerously close, a desperate scream in the night. Celeste's eyes flickered with urgency. Her voice, trembling as she posed a question remembered only in nightmares. "Who are you, Maya?" Lara's words curled into the air, a lit fuse igniting the storm brewing inside the precinct. Each syllable rang with a fragility that mirrored her crumbling sanity. "Lara, listen!" Maya's voice cut through the tension, raw with a fierce intent. "I've been investigating Mark for years. There's a whole network, and—" Before she could finish, the piercing shriek of sirens flooded the room, dimming the chaos into sharp clarity. It wasn't just the precinct on the line. A darker web of corruption tangled in every corner of their lives, and the time for half measures had evaporated. As fear pulsed in her veins, Lara met her mother's gaze, searching for answers buried deep. But suddenly, the door swinging open unleashed a whirlwind of bodies. Heavily armed officers swarmed into the room, their faces a mix of determination and dread. "This is a lockdown. Nobody leaves." Lara's breath constricted. The orders echoed like a death sentence. In the thickening silence, Mark took a step forward, every muscle in him thrumming with anxiety. "You don't know what you're getting into," he growled, casting dark glances between the officers and the two women who held the weight of damning pasts. But just as the atmosphere swirled with foreboding, Lara stumbled onto something she couldn't dismiss. A flicker in the corner of her vision. The shards of light caught on something at Mark's belt, where the metallic sheen of a hidden pistol glinted ominously. Before she could react, a surge of darkness enveloped the room. The lights flickered violently once more, plunging the precinct into a chasm of shadow. Panic erupted anew, shouts melding into a cacophony. And in that swirling chaos, fate tightened its grip around them all. Suddenly, a thunderous crack sliced through the void, a gunshot echoing like thunder inside their minds. Time stretched, a cruel suspension. Lara screamed, instinctively lunging forward, but hands grasped her shoulders, dragging her back. Celeste's face morphed from urgency into sheer horror as she realized what they all felt. That trusted figure in their midst had just revealed the darkest betrayal. A second seed of chaos erupted. On the edge of perception, Mark moved faster than anyone could comprehend. "You should have kept your mouth shut, Maya." His voice, cold and sharp, cut through the tremors of shock. He was chewing through their fragile alliance, and now everything felt like shards of glass, ready to pierce skin, friendship gone rancid. Maya's breath was ragged, her presence a flickering candle fighting against the storm. "You don't understand," she rasped, pain lacing her voice. "Someone inside the precinct. It's not just him. There's a plot." "Enough." One of the officers barked, his voice a rock amidst turbulence. "Mark Callahan, you are under arrest for conspiracy." And then, as if propelled by a force unseen, yet another reel of chaos unfolded. A shadow broke through the oscillating light, and from that flicker came a voice that tore through Lara's heart. A voice steeped in all the warmth of a childhood memory. "Lara, I had to do this." It was her mother, stepping forward now, red-stained hands trembling under the light. A concealed weapon slipped from her grip. "I needed you to see the truth before it's too late." Lara's mind shattered. unraveling in disbelief. You were part of the whole time? Her voice trembled, fear and betrayal crashing together, tearing through her insides. The world narrowed into a singular focus, love tangled in deceit, truth buried beneath years of loyalty. The realization slammed her with blinding force. Her mother had orchestrated this chaos. The hidden layers of trust liquefied every choice, every lie, culminating in a confrontation poised at the razor's edge. As sirens wailed louder and the atmosphere thickened with impending chaos, Lara found herself entangled in a conspiracy deeper than blood could bind. She had to choose: trust the woman who had once given her everything, or step into the darkness that threatened to consume them all. "What have we unleashed?" Lara whispered, illuminating their dangerous path ahead. The truth sparkled with peril, and the flickers of hope dimmed. The night was far from over, and the reckoning had only just begun. Lara's breath quickened as she stared at her mother, the weight of betrayal hanging heavy in the air. The chaos of the precinct pulsed around them, but the true storm was here, between them. Each heartbeat thundered through her, electric and alive, as if the universe itself held its breath. "What have we unleashed?" Lara whispered, her voice barely breaking through the cacophony. Her mother's blood-stained hands trembled slightly, the horror of realization splintering through Lara's mind. "Lara, you don't understand," her mother pleaded, anguish pouring from her eyes. "I did it to protect you." "Protect me?" The accusation slashed through the air. "By hiding the truth? By dragging me into this?" A sudden shriek cut through the noise like a siren's wail, grounding the chaos in stark reality. From the corner of the room, one of the officers collapsed, clutching his stomach, his face twisted in agony, blood pooling around him. In an instant, all eyes shifted, panic fracturing the bond they had been navigating. "Get medical assistance!" A voice cast a desperate order, reverberating through the turmoil. But Lara wasn't listening. The scene around her blurred. Everything was a whirl of color and sound. A feeling of unignorable dread washed over her as a realization dawned. Had her mother orchestrated this too? Was this a part of the plan? Just as she opened her mouth to shout her mother's name, another shadow emerged from the depths, slicing through the panic. It was Mark, a predatory gleam flashing in his eyes as he stood over the fallen officer, a gun now clenched in his hand, the barrel gleaming menacingly against the flickering lights. "You think I'm the only one with a plan?" he jeered, his voice cold as steel. "What do you mean?" Celeste interjected, stepping forward, fierce resolve igniting her gaze. But Mark only grinned, the shadows concealing a tight-lipped smirk that left a chill rolling down Lara's spine. "It's not just about me. It's all of you, tangled in this web of deceit. You really thought it was just about the precinct? No, it's much bigger. It's your mother's legacy." Every word dripped with malice, an insidious truth, clawing at the edges of understanding. Lara's gut twisted as horror flooded her senses. "Your mother," Mark continued, his tone mocking, "is at the center of it all. She's the one who planted the seeds of this chaos. She was never just an innocent bystander, was she? "Stop it!" Lara shouted, her heart racing, the world tilting off its axis. "You're lying!" But doubt, cold and sharp, gnawed at the edges of her faith. "Am I?" Mark took a step closer, and with it came an overwhelming certainty. "Let's talk about the files hidden in the basement, or how your mother's decisions forced loyal officers into silence, or worse." A collective gasp echoed through the room. Celeste's eyes widened, disbelief sweeping across her features, while Lara felt something unravel inside her. Time stretched, each heartbeat resonating with betrayal, as the magnitude of Mark's words shattered the illusion of safety. "You want the truth to set you free? Then there it is." Before she could respond, another gunshot erupted, this time from behind the paneling in the corner. A fiery blast reverberating through the precinct. The sound sent vibrations through her very soul, and amid the cloud of smoke that erupted from the wall, a figure darted out. "Get down!" the voice yelled. Familiar, but unrecognized. He shouted, urgency urgent in his voice. "We don't have time! Get away from her!" Her heart plummeted. Everything she thought she knew, every foundation of her beliefs, was crumbling. Secrets, lies, bloodlines tangled in brutality. Reality collapsed around her. Every relationship she'd built suddenly felt infected with deception. Her world dimmed, bringing a new question echoing in her mind. How deep did the conspiracy of silence run? What awaited her on the other side of this maelstrom? As father and daughter stood face to face for the first time in years, a haunting realization loomed above them. Trust had become a weapon, and love a potential enemy. Everything she had held dear was teetering on the edge, the battlefield shifting beneath their feet. What vengeance lurked beneath their skin? The stakes had never been higher, and fear wrapped around her heart. The only choice remaining was to leap into the dark abyss unfolding before her. Lara's heart hammered as she faced her father, the man she thought had been lost to the shadows of her past. His eyes, filled with urgency, held a blend of fear and determination that cut through the chaos surrounding them. The air crackled with unprocessed emotions, tensions rising like a blazing wildfire, while sirens wailed a warning just beyond the precinct's walls. "Why didn't you come for me?" The question leapt from her lips, a wild accusation steeped in years of pain. Emotions churned inside her like a storm threatening to drown them all. "Lara, we don't have time," he pleaded. "Mark, he's not what he seems. None of us are." The declaration hung in the air, reverberating through the chaos. Mark's face twisted into a mask of anger, mouth curling like smoke from a dying ember. "Stop lying. You think you can twist this against me?" He laughed, the sound brittle as glass, shattering in the charged atmosphere. But just as the tension peaked, a low rumble echoed through the precinct, and the lights flickered again, throwing the room into oscillating shadows. An officer stumbled back, gripping the edge of a desk, eyes wide with dread. "We're compromised. They're coming for us." The weight of those words loomed like a dark cloud. Lara felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Every alliance they thought they had, crumbling. Mark lunged for the door, but stopped short as it burst open. A swathe of armed figures in tactical gear stormed into the room, faces obscured by masks as they filed in like a twisted parade of retribution. Lara looked at her father, and within that split second, recognition flickered across his face. "No," he whispered, horror dawning. "They shouldn't be here yet. It was too soon." "Dad, who are they?" Lara's voice trembled, dread pooling in her gut like ice. Before he could respond, Maya, still on the ground, gasped, clutching her bleeding side. "Lara, it's not just Mark." She grunted through the pain, calling out in a weak voice. He's part of something much bigger." A flash of movement drew Lara's attention back to the masked figures. One stepped forward, pulling back the mask with deliberate slowness. The air around them thickened, a silence falling as the man's face became visible, infamous within their city, the shadowy figure that had haunted every officer's nightmares. "Detective Ryan Jennings," he announced, voice smooth but saturated with menace. "The game has just begun." Lara's heart dropped. Jennings was relentless, ruthless, a known player in the corruption running rampant in the precinct. But even as her mind churned with disbelief, another revelation struck like lightning. "Get down!" her father yelled, just as gunfire erupted, whizzing dangerously close, forcing everyone to drop to the floor. In the chaos, a flurry of bullets, fire, and shouts merged into a chaotic symphony. Adrenaline rushed through Lara, shock rendering time irrelevant. But within the cacophony, something remarkable unfolded. The familiar golden insignia on Jennings' arm caught Lara's eye, and suddenly everything crystallized into sharp focus. "You're not a cop!" she screamed, her voice fractured with astonishment. "No," he replied, smirking as if savoring the moment. "I'm worse. Your mother's loyalty was misplaced. My allegiance was always to the power behind this. And now," he gestured around, the tide of shadows under his command, "you all are out of options." Panic wrestled with disbelief. The weight of revelations crashed down upon them, each truth a jagged edge threatening to cut deeper. "Your mother," Jennings continued, "was the key, the very reason we've kept everything together. But now," he paused, his eyes glinting with sadistic glee, "she's disposable." A collective realization shattered the remaining threads of trust, tying them all to a hidden plot far darker than they ever imagined. As chaos erupted around them, Lara's world tilted perilously on its axis. "Step aside, Lara," her father growled, desperation spilling into his voice. "We might be your only chance at survival." But even as he spoke, something ominous sent icy fingers creeping up her spine. The question twisted inside her mind, drowning out any hope. Could her father be trusted? Would this family she clung to reveal yet another hidden betrayal that threatened to drown them all? "Choose wisely," Jennings smirked, poised to strike. And in that moment, the abyss opened wide, welcoming them into the darkness they thought they had escaped, leaving Lara to grasp for the truth, teetering on the edge of an uncertain darkness. Lara's breath quickened as she faced her father, the man she thought had been lost to the shadows of her past. His eyes, filled with urgency, held a blend of fear and determination that cut through the chaos surrounding them. The air crackled with unprocessed emotions, tensions rising like a blazing wildfire, while sirens wailed a warning just beyond the precinct's walls. "Why didn't you come for me?" The question leapt from her lips. Emotions churned inside her like a storm threatening to drown them all. "Lara, we don't have time," he pleaded, voice harsh with urgency. "It's not safe here. Mark, he's not what he seems. None of us are." The declaration hung in the air, reverberating through the chaos. Mark's face twisted into a mask of anger, mouth curling like smoke from a dying ember. "Stop lying. You think you can twist this against me?" He laughed, the sound brittle as glass, shattering in the charged atmosphere. But just as the tension peaked, a low rumble echoed through the precinct, and the lights flickered again, throwing the room into oscillating shadows. An officer stumbled back, gripping the edge of a desk, eyes wide with dread. "We're compromised. They're coming for us." The weight of those words loomed like a dark cloud. Lara felt the ground shift beneath her feet. Every alliance they thought they had, crumbling. Mark lunged for the door, but stopped short as it burst open. A swathe of armed figures in tactical gear stormed into the room, faces obscured by masks as they filed in like a twisted parade of retribution. Lara looked at her father, and within that split second, recognition flickered across his face. "No," he whispered, horror dawning. "They shouldn't be here yet. It was too soon." "Dad, who are they?" Lara's voice trembled, dread pooling in her gut like ice. Before he could respond, Maya, still on the ground, gasped, clutching her bleeding side. "Lara, it's not just Mark!" She grunted through the pain, calling out in a weak voice. He's part of something much bigger." A flash of movement drew Lara's attention back to the masked figures. One step forward, pulling back the mask with deliberate slowness. The air around them thickened, a silence falling as the man's face became visible, infamous within their city. The shadowy figure that had haunted every officer's nightmares. "Detective Ryan Jennings," he announced, voice smooth but saturated with menace. "The game has just begun." Lara's heart dropped. Jennings was relentless, ruthless, a known player in the corruption, running rampant in the precinct. But even as her mind churned with disbelief, another revelation struck like lightning. "Get down!" her father yelled, just as gunfire erupted, whizzing dangerously close, forcing everyone to drop to the floor. In the chaos, a flurry of bullets, fire, and shouts merged into a chaotic symphony. Adrenaline rushed through Lara, shock rendering time irrelevant. But within the cacophony, something remarkable unfolded. The familiar golden insignia on Jennings' arm caught Lara's eye, and suddenly everything crystallized into sharp focus. "You're not a cop!" she screamed, her voice fractured with astonishment. "No," he replied, smirking as if savoring the moment. "I'm worse. Your mother's loyalty was misplaced. My allegiance was always to the power behind this. And now," he gestured around, "the tide of shadows under his command. You all are out of options." Panic wrestled with disbelief. The weight of revelations crashed down upon them, each truth a jagged edge threatening to cut deeper. "Your mother," Jennings continued, "was the key, the very reason we've kept everything together. But now," he paused, his eyes glinting with sadistic glee, "she's disposable." A collective realization shattered the remaining threads of trust, tying them all to a hidden plot far darker than they ever imagined. As chaos erupted around them, Lara's world tilted perilously on its axis. "Step aside, Lara," her father growled, desperation spilling into his voice. "We might be your only chance at survival." But even as he spoke, something ominous sent icy fingers creeping up her spine. The question twisted inside her mind, drowning out any hope. Could her father be trusted? Would this family she clung to reveal yet another hidden betrayal that threatened to drown them all? "Choose wisely," Jennings smirked, poised to strike. And in that moment, the abyss opened wide, welcoming them into the darkness they thought they had escaped, leaving Lara to grasp for the truth, teetering on the edge of an uncertain darkness. And then, with brutal clarity, a sound shattered the air. The clatter of a second device detonated, bringing a wall crashing down in a storm of debris and chaos. An earth-shattering explosion rocked the precinct, showering them in fragments of concrete and scattering bodies in a visceral tableau of devastation. Amid the dust and ruin, a familiar shape emerged from the smoke, the figure of Celeste, clutching a briefcase overflowing with files labeled with damning evidence. "Lara, I was wrong, and we don't have much time," Celeste shouted, urgency in her voice as she stepped through the carnage toward them, heart pounding like a war drum. "They're not just here for us. They're here for everything. We've been feeding them the wrong information." For beneath the glaring light of betrayal, a truth emerged even darker than they had imagined. Celeste was not merely an ally or adversary. She was the architect of a plot designed to safeguard her lineage, the very blood ties that wove through the chaos surrounding them, binding them all in blood and ambition. As the officers screamed, the reality twisted like a knife through the air, leaving Lara to confront a staggering betrayal that transformed everything she thought she knew. The labyrinth of secrets was far larger than any of them could perceive, the truths buried deeper than blood could define. And as the dust began to settle, a terrible question loomed like a shadow over their hearts. Could the unraveling of one secret lead to the awakening of another? The imminent danger hovered like a sword of Damocles, and the truth remained just out of reach, waiting to be unleashed. Dust and smoke swirled in the air, tinged with the acrid scent of gunpowder and fear. The chaos fell, mum. Lara demanded, stepping closer, desperate for clarity in the swirling tumult. Over the din of chaos, her voice trembled, striving to pierce through the cacophony surrounding them. But Celeste's eyes darted from her to Jennings, the tension thickening like fog around them. A tremor of panic edged into her features. This is bigger than just us. They want control, and they've been playing us against one another the entire time. As if to underline her urgency, another explosion shook the ground beneath them. It sent vibrations coursing through the floor, rattling their bones as the walls creaked ominously. The officers scrambled to find cover, their frantic movements casting shadows of dread across the dimly lit room. Then, in stark contrast, a stillness, almost unnatural, oozed into the air, filling the space like an envelope squeezing shut. Lara's heart rate slowed, confusion blooming. Had everything taken a breath before chaos erupted once more? "Celeste!" Lara snapped, trying to break through the pregnant silence. "Please, we need to know what you're hiding." But before Celeste could reply, the heavy doors at the back swung open with a terrible creak, revealing a woman cloaked in darkness. As she stepped forward, the shattered light above illuminated a face Lara knew all too well. The very embodiment of betrayal, her features carved from memories long repressed, her mother. "What are you doing here?" Lara's voice caught in her throat, disbelief flooding her senses like a tidal wave. "You shouldn't be here. You promised." Her mother encompassed their surroundings in a steely presence. And yet there was something softer, a glimmer of vulnerability. "Lara, I'm here because you deserve to know the truth. All of it." Celeste's breath hitched as if punched. "You, the truth? You're the one tangled in all of this." "Am I?" her mother shot back, eyes flashing between them with a fierce intensity. "Or am I simply the one trying to protect the only family I have left?" Lara felt the ground shifting again, her mind racing beneath the deluge of revelation. Before she could respond, her mother hurled the words that struck like a lightning bolt. "I'm the reason Mark Callahan exists in this capacity. The plan was for him to protect you, to shield you from the real danger. Me." Shock rippled through the group. Tension snapped, replaced with raw confusion. Mark's expression twisted into horror as the very foundation of their reality came crashing down around them. "You did what?" he spat, a tangible blend of rage and disbelief flooding his features, illuminating that shadowy geography of betrayal. "Your father had to go," she continued, each word weighted with significance, crushing their realities into dust. "To take back control, I had to twist every semblance of protection into a weapon." "What weapon?" Lara pressed, petrified by the unfolding truth. "What are you talking about?" "Lara, I didn't want you to know. Your father wasn't just involved. He betrayed everything. He wanted you to be part of a legacy greater than either of us could comprehend." But terrible silence enveloped them, a thick cloak of dread draping over the chaos. Celeste recoiled, anguish etched into her features as raw emotion exploded into the void, shaking every remaining soul inside the precinct. "It can't be true! You can't be saying that!" "Watch your back," her mother warned, gripping Lara's arm tighter. "You can't trust anyone. It was never about saving you. It was about maintaining power, at any cost." Everything spiraled as Lara swung her gaze between Celeste and her mother. realization crashing like waves against the shore of her understanding. So you're telling me everything I thought I knew was a lie? Everything is a lie, her mother whispered, her expression shifting into something far darker. And now, the game is just beginning. As confusion mounted and panic unfurled, a gunfire erupted once more, cutting through their tension, the warning shot or a call to arms, leaving them suspended on the precipice of an unexpected destiny. Who could be trusted in a world where blood was the ultimate betrayal, turned against them all? The chaos around them began to settle, the shouts and gunfire fading into a tense silence. Lara felt the weight of her mother's words pressing down on her. Everything she had thought was clear now lay in shattered pieces on the floor. "Is this what you wanted, Mom?" Lara's voice trembled, tinged with betrayal. "To bring me into this world of deceit?" Her mother's face hardened. "I did what I had to do to protect you. Everything I did was for you, to keep you safe from the monsters hidden in plain sight." Mark, still reeling from the sudden revelations, took a step back. "You really thought you could control all of this?" His voice cracked under the weight of disbelief. "Yes," her mother replied, voice firm, yet laden with regret. "But things spiraled out of control. We need to end this now." Celeste, eyes darting between them, stepped forward, determination etched on her face. "We fight together. No more secrets. It's time we take a stand." The sirens outside lashed against the walls, a reminder that they were running out of time. "How?" Lara asked, glancing at each of them, searching for guidance. "By revealing the truth," Celeste said, "and taking out Jennings before he can unleash the chaos he has planned." Lara nodded, adrenaline coursing through her veins. It was now or never. She glanced at her father, his face etched with resolve. "We need to do this as a family." They rallied together. An unlikely alliance formed from shards of mistrust and betrayal. With a plan to expose Jennings' operation, they positioned themselves at the perimeter of the precinct. When the doors swung open, chaos erupted once more. But this time, they were ready. As the smoke cleared, they advanced, each step feeling electric. The fight was messy. Gunfire echoed, shouts rang out, and yet even in the chaos, there was a sense of unity. They combated, not just against Jennings' henchmen, but against the truths that had scarred them. Finally, as the dust settled, Lara faced Jennings. He sneered, the arrogance still in his eyes. "You think you've won? This isn't over." Yet, before he could strike, Lara stepped forward, fueled by unyielding resolve. "It ends here," she declared, not just for herself, but for all the lives entwined in this tangled web. With one final push, Celeste and her mother flanked Jennings, and as they tackled him to the ground, it felt like the weight of countless secrets was lifted. When the officers finally swarmed in, their hands were cuffed, betrayal laid bare for all to see. It was done. Their lives were no longer shackled to the lies. Moments later, with the precinct in the background, Lara faced her family. The bond forged anew, stronger. "I don't know what the future holds, but we'll face it together." Her mother's tear-stained face softened. Together, as they embraced, Laura took a breath of relief, the tension easing in her chest. There would be scars, but they would heal. They had a chance. And then, just as they turned to leave, a soft whisper glided through the air. A lone piece of paper fluttered where Jennings had fallen. A file marked with a familiar name, one they thought long gone. The past had a way of lingering. You must subscribe now to catch the next chapter in this unfolding saga. Smash that like button to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments with your theories about what comes next. And don't wait another second. Share this story with at least 5 friends who need to know how it all ends. This is the moment to show your support.